Well, we're live for episode 40. Now, one thing I wanted to ask you, I was thinking about this right before I logged on, was whenever you in your head or even verbalize our podcast, do you say the Unscripted Company podcast, or do you just say Unscripted Company?
I just say Unscripted Company.
Yeah.
When people, because like I've been kind of like telling more and more people like during some like networking stuff and things like that, like they're like, "Oh, what's your podcast called?" And I'll just say, "Oh, it's called Unscripted Company." Like I don't say the or anything like that. It's just I keep it casual. And a lot of people, it's funny because a lot of people like they hear the name and they're like, "Oh, that's actually really good. Like that's actually really catchy. We like that." And I'm like, "Well," I was like, "Yeah, it took us about a week to nail that name down. Like we were back and forth, just throwing ideas back, and we figured that this was the best name to go with." So,
Well, I think we have to be a little bit honest too, because like you said, it did take like a week or so brainstorming different ideas and concepts and things. But I don't know if you remember, I think I texted you maybe like 3 hours before we recorded what became our first episode. And we might have talked about this in the first episode, but we just like haphazardly landed on this name probably 3 hours before we recorded the first episode. So I was just kind of curious. Yeah, I just want to pick your brain on like, do you call it the, or do you just call it Unscripted Company? Regardless though, dude, we made it 40 episodes so far. That's kind of, that puts us in the upper echelon of people that have sat in front of a webcam and have spoken nonsense to it.
Pretty much. And some people don't even speak nonsense. They come on with an actual agenda and they talk about it. And I'm not saying we don't have an agenda, but we just, we let the flow of the conversation happen the way it happens. A lot of people, they want to stick to their things, and we would prefer to not ever be a podcast that really does that, because the goal of our podcast is to have meaningful conversations to an extent, maybe have some fun conversations, but to let the flow go wherever the flow needs to go. And then, taking feedback from the community of people who have kept up with us since day one, or maybe this is your first, episode that you've caught on and you're like, "Oh, let's check this out," and they want to see what's about. So, either way, we're here for it. And, we are soon to be on episode 50. We're already almost through our first year, and a lot of podcasts cannot say the same thing, but we are still here. So,
yeah. And just to kind of give I guess a little teaser preview of what we're going to talk about. And I'm realizing I think our little head bubbles are actually covering part of this, but at some point throughout this next hour and a half, 2 hours worth of a live stream for this podcast episode, we're going to be talking about 10 Texas haunted places. So you can kind of see the list here. We'll go probably some of them, some of you have heard about before. Hopefully some of them you haven't heard about before. Like Riley, I was looking at some of the ones you put on there. And you can see it on the screen for Fort Worth Zoo. I had no idea the Fort Worth Zoo had anything to do with any hauntings.
I didn't either. I didn't either.
Yeah, the one thing I do have to laugh about, and we'll talk about this later, is neither of us put the Alamo on here.
I was thinking about it. Like I wanted to, and technically I probably could have still pivoted into the Alamo, but I had one place from San Antonio, and it was the railroad tracks. So the
Villamain, it looks like our heads are covering that right now, I believe.
And I've always been interested in I'm not saying the Alamo is not historical. It's probably the most historical place in the state of Texas.
Ooh, with them fighting words if you go against that.
100%. I'm from Texas. I'm a native Texan at heart, and born and raised here.
Well, let me ask you an important question though. Do you remember the Alamo?
I do remember the Alamo.
Okay, what do you remember about it?
It was a very, very small, militia-sized group of men that defended this place from probably about, what was it, like 3,000 to 5,000 soldiers, successfully. And that's like the main legitimacy of it. But I know that it was between the country of Mexico and Texas. It had to do with a lot of the, if I'm not mistaken, Mexico wanted Texas back or something similar to that. I did not fight at the battle, but I will be honest though, if anything ever came down to where we had to defend our home state because of, we talked about this in the episode of Texas Secession, that if that ever came down to it, I would not hesitate to defend my home turf of the state of Texas. Just saying. Still fighting. Absolutely. We're all still fighting, but But yeah, I wanted to keep this to where it was like places that people may or may not have heard of, and
For sure.
that's something that I feel that because anyone can look, if you live in your own city and you're like, oh well, I know this place is haunted. People from the Alamo could probably, or even from San Antonio, could probably figure that the Alamo is haunted based on the events that conspired there.
And kudos to you, good sir, because I just put you on the spot with that joke. I wasn't expecting you to go into total, what was it, seventh grade Texas history in front of us right now, which is totally fine. But I was just more joking, like, do you remember the Alamo?
I do remember the Alamo.
You went into the whole spiel. So props to you, good sir,
dude.
on that one. You are a true Texan on that one.
But yeah, before we get into all this though,
Yeah.
as most people who have watched our episodes know, we may not announce it every episode, but we do what's called the water cooler. So we just kind of talk about our previous week.
I do want to say something real quick though about that. And I don't know if we've actually formally joked about this on a recording. Is we jokingly call it the water cooler. It's just you and I just like talking about things unrelated to the main topic of the episode.
Right.
But for those of you who may not have caught on, we call it Unscripted Company, but like at the company you have the water cooler. So I'm not sure if anyone's caught on to that or if everyone's just like, no duh, we caught on to that. Now I just sound like an idiot saying it out loud out there. But
I don't get it. What's but no. So yeah, that is what we do. That is what we like to do because we don't want people just to know. We don't want people just to hop on here and be like, oh, these are just two random people who are talking about random topics, whatever the case may be. I mean, we are technically two random people talking about random topics, but we like keeping things open, transparent. Like we want people to know about, what's going on in our lives because we are just two regular people at the end of the day, just living our daily lives. So with that being said, JK, how was your week?
it was pretty good. Halloween was this week, actually.
It was.
I'm trying to think. Like, we didn't really get as many trick-or-treaters I think we were expecting. Like, we do live in a neighborhood, but it's a neighborhood where, a lot of the homes were built in the 80s. So it's kind of like a mixed neighborhood where you have a lot of the original home buyers that have like, aged out. They had a family, the kids have graduated, flown the nest, etc. And so they're in that like, older years of their life. But then you also have where some of those people have since sold. So you have younger families, first-time home buyers moving into the neighborhood. So it's kind of a 50-50 split. But then there's also a lot of churches in this area too, where they do the trunk or treats. And I was talking with my wife, and I didn't realize like the tradition. And you and I kind of talked about this last week too. But the tradition of trick or treating, like the traditional version of it, I'm not going to say it's like a dying tradition, but in some urban areas, it seems like it's getting less than it's ever been, like compared to whenever you and I were children. Because think about it, we're children from the 20th century. We're a whole century ago, where people were trick or treating on the regular. Where now, we maybe in total, probably 20, 25 kids, but some of those kids traveled in packs. So you'd have it where 6 or 7 kids, whereas from like 2 or 3 families would all roll up at the same time. So really, we only answered the door, I think, like 5 times.
That like it used to be like you'd go with your friends and you'd have like 1 or 2 parents chaperoning 5 to 7 kids, give or take, something like that, and it would still be an event out of that. But I mean, I think you're pretty spot on with that because a lot of people celebrate Halloween before Halloween, and with good measure because I'm pretty sure like there was I think up in Louisville, and I'll have to look it up just to make for sure, but there was actually someone that got shot. And like there was some things happening on Halloween night, and so it's like
did they really get shot, or were they just cosplaying really well, or
they got shot? There was some stuff. There was some stuff that was happening and going on Halloween. So I think a lot of people just when it comes to Halloween, they celebrate like do the trunk or treats and they do all the parties and they do all the things before Halloween, so they can just relax on Halloween for the few people that may come through as far as trick-or-treaters. But because of the fear of things happening, drunk drivers, people doing stupid things, like nobody wants to be out, and I don't blame them at all. I mean, Halloween it's supposed to be a night of fun, but it's also a night of debauchery and people doing bad things. Let's be honest here.
Now I feel like the one question I have to ask, and you probably don't know the answer to this, and we Google it, is we have this ongoing storyline where we keep referencing people that have passed away in Lake Louisville, just bringing Louisville up here. I do have to wonder, did anyone pass away on Halloween night in Lake Louisville? Are they to forever haunt the lake now? Or are they going to Let's see here. Daddy Stream says, I watched a video on TikTok from an ex-witch who is now a Christian who described all of the stuff that goes on around this time. Creepy. That is wild. There are legitimate people who, from the outside looking in, look like totally wholesome, quote unquote, normal people that go real deep with some of this stuff. It's both fascinating and terrifying.
Right.
And intriguing all at the same time.
Again, that's just some of the things. I mean, some of it could be fear mongering, but again, people. I don't know what it is about people who like it's Halloween and then they just associate every spirit and for good context, for good measure, because spiritual things do happen, but spiritual things happen every other night. But it seems like people go out of their way to try to make it more abundant on Halloween night, and I'm like, can we just like take the kids out, go get some candy, and just go have a good time, But no, people don't want to do that stuff. So, we didn't do anything. We just hung out at home. Yeah, I don't think we even went out and did anything. Like, we just hung out at home, and I didn't have any work or anything that day, so I literally played Call of Duty. I played the new Call of Duty for like 7 hours straight.
Wait, so you didn't practice for this like live Ouija board reading we're going to be doing here in a couple minutes?
I did not. So just like everything that I'm about to read to y'all during this live stream, we're doing it live, and I have no idea what's about to be said.
No, but you said you got the new. So there's a new Call of Duty, I'm guessing.
Black Ops 6.
I'm totally checked out on it. So educate me on this.
Was
Black Ops 6.
Black Ops 6.
I did not know there was a fifth one. I guess
there was.
I knew there was a third one, but
I didn't play the fifth one. So here's the thing. I actually didn't. I bought the previous Call of Duties. Actually, I think at one point I had a friend who bought one of them for me. I wasn't planning on buying this one. I was like, look, they keep doing the same thing. They keep telling everyone they're going to make all these great changes and that everything looks great when you first buy it, and then they start making changes that are bad for the community.
But I don't want to bought it anyway.
I didn't want to waste $75. But
$75.
It was $75, yeah.
Was it like $69.99 and then it
which cow. Most games are going up to that now anyways, which it is what it is. But the fact remains that I was like, so I don't play a lot of games a whole lot anymore. And so it's like a lot of the games that were like the MMORPG type aspects, I'm like, I don't have time to really sit and productively grind things on there because I have
it's a commitment, dude.
And so Call of Duty has made it super easy to get the dark matter camos, which is like you get all the weapons gold and then diamond and anyways. Okay, so I was like, I'll buy it, see what's up with it, see how it goes, and I've actually thoroughly been having a good time playing it. It's so I played it for like an hour or two before I hopped on here. And so it's I like that. I titled my stream "The Worst Call of Duty Player" and streamed me dying over and over again.
Hey, there's a market for that, I'm sure.
I'm just saying, like, don't get me wrong, I'm not a great when it comes to PvP. Destiny, I'm good at, but when it comes to Call of Duty, like, I'm a solid like just 1.0 KD average player.
There's got to be a market somewhere where you can play Call of Duty and utilize a Ouija board at the same time. I'm not going to be the one to pioneer that genre, but I think Riley could for sure be on the cutting edge of a new form of entertainment here, where in between matches or maybe mid-match, you consult whatever's around you. I'll let you figure that one out. And then you can report back on the next podcast.
Summon the demon that's the god of Call of Duty and just be an absolute.
You might have just spoken into existence, so you're the one to blame for this.
I am not. But other than that, though, I mean, Halloween. It was this past week. We didn't do a whole lot. I know I didn't get to touch on this last week, but me and the wife did our LTC proficiency exam, so we are one step closer to getting our concealed carry permits.
Oh,
so that's going to be
carry your muskets around. It's going to be exciting.
We'll call it a musket. Yeah. We'll call it that.
It's a tiny little boom boom stick,
Right. But if anyone ever comes knocking on my door, I lost all my guns in a boating accident. So we'll kind of throw that out there.
The boating accident was on Lake Louisville, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah. Then they'll never find him. But yeah, other than that, anything else? How was? I know it was Halloween, but did y'all do anything else fun this weekend? Anything?
Oh, good point. Yeah, dude. Actually, we went to the Texas Renaissance Festival.
That's right. I remember you saying that.
Yeah, it's technically in a little town called Todd Mission, but if you look up Todd Mission on a map, it's basically not even a town. Like the entire Renaissance Festival is the town's entire economy. The
That's
thing
cool.
spans for like 4, maybe 5 months out of the year, just on the weekends. They have different themes throughout the year. So the weekend we went was part of their like pirate theme. When you get into like the winter months, it'll get more to like the Scottish Highlands and some of the, where you throw on the kilt and have a good time. But they also have like a barbarian weekend and some other stuff like that. But we went, it's a good time. It's technically the largest Renaissance festival or fair in North America. So
Okay.
it's like larger than a Six Flags. It's pretty wild.
Oh,
I
wow.
highly recommend it if anyone is listening and you happen to be, I guess, in a part of Texas that can access somewhere near College Station, Navasota. It's closer to Houston than anything else, but definitely worth it. It's relatively affordable. It's like $30 if you buy the ticket in advance. They have free parking. You can, of course, pay for valet or like premium parking if you want, but it's out in the middle of a forest and it's all permanent structures. So it's like they've built the Disney World of Ren Fair, basically.
See, what I want to do is, and we can try to plan this for next year if you want. But there's this place out in South Carolina. Obviously, we're not going to try to go there, but I want to see if I can find something similar here. But they have this this guy and his family, like, and on their land, like all these acres of land, they have all these haunted houses and activities, and they open it up every single October, and it's just they redo everything every single year, and it's just like you can get a VIP pass and you get access to everything, but they got like food, games, haunted houses, like all kinds of stuff, and it's just an awesome experience. And we wanted to find something like that to do, but like I don't want to just go to like just one haunted house. Like I want to try to find like a fun, like you pay like $100, which I think that's how much their tickets were. It was like 50 to $100, but you get access to everything. And so might try
You
to
could
plan
do
something.
that. You could start that business if you just get yourself a small little plot of land and then I don't
That's
know,
the problem.
you go on the dark web and you buy some, I don't know, cadavers or something, kind of throw them out in the field and you're like, you make a Facebook page for it and you do like an
Right.
Instagram reel and you're like, hey guys. And then the whole story is once you go out there, you don't come back.
Uh,
And then we see Riley on the 5 o'clock news and it gets real
oh
awkward.
man, yeah. We're not gonna do that. No, I'm not.
There was a little bit of a hesitation. I think he thought about it for a brief moment. You're like, hang on a minute.
Funny enough, I thought about it when I was watching the video of it, of this YouTuber, and him and his wife and some of their friends went out to it, and it was like I was like, man, that actually be pretty cool. Like, can I see myself doing that? Like starting one of those? And I was like, nah, like because it takes a lot of effort. Like he's made his money. Like the guy who runs it has made.
It
his
takes
money
years
off of it
to build up.
but dude, they've built it up so much, and then it's like you give. He even mentioned like there comes a point where it's like, what else can you do? Like when you finally hit that peak.
Yeah.
So but yeah, maybe something we could try to plan for next year to go do something like that. So
that could be fun. That
yes,
could be
sir.
fun. How about you? Anything else going on this week at all? Or?
Work has been work. I've had people, fall off, ghost. I've had some people actually respond and say they're holding off on buying until next year, which is fine. But
it is that time of year to be ghostly. So
and it's also the slowest month of the year for real estate, statistically speaking.
And there's an election in literally 2 days. We don't have to go too down that rabbit hole because like this is
let's hold it in until next week. We got next week coming up. So
next week's episode is going to be themed around the election, everybody. So
both of them.
We don't know what is going to happen. So you'll find out next week the same time we do.
Next week will be 2 pre-recorded episodes, but you won't get them the same week. You'll get them at the usual scheduled time. But
man, I'm so excited to go to Vegas. It's going to be some debauchery. Let me tell you.
Yeah.
Yeah, dude, Daddy streaming, just saying he just wants it to be over. Like, wholeheartedly agree. My whole thing is like, what amount of drama? And I'll stop after this, but like, we got 2 days left from as of recording this right now. How much more tomfoolery and shenanigans are going to happen between now and Tuesday? Lord help us. We'll find out.
Honestly, I'm half tempted just to stay off social media for the next 2 days just to avoid it. But
yeah,
you can't. It is what it is. But
yeah,
enough about that. We got some good stuff for y'all tonight. We hope y'all enjoy it. Did you want to start it off?
I can if you like. Just as a reminder, I'm going to throw this back up there. And yes, our faces are covering part of this list. But here's the topics we're going to cover. I'm actually going to kick off with the Yorktown Memorial Hospital. We'll also hit on the Presidio La Bahía in Goliad, the Jefferson Hotel in Jefferson, Texas, the Driskill Hotel in Austin, Texas, the University of North Texas in Denton, Texas. If you haven't figured it out yet, yes, this is a Texas-themed episode, so every location will be located in the Lone Star State. You also have the Lady of White Rock Lake in Dallas, Texas. Oddly enough, the Fort Worth Zoo in Fort Worth, Texas, Goatman's Bridge in Denton, Texas, Stephen F. Austin State University in Nacogdoches. Actually, I take that back. It is Stephen F. Austin University now. I think they slopped the state off that. And then Villamain Railroad Tracks in San Antone. So let me make sure I get the right screen shared here because I do have some visuals for us.
I do not have visuals, but I can pull visuals up as I talk.
It's all good, man. We can do it in real time. It's not that big of a deal. Let me throw this up here real quick. All right. So this is the Yorktown Memorial Hospital. And the first time I actually read about this, I was like, anytime I hear the word Yorktown, I honestly think about the Northeast because I never realized we had like a city or a town in Texas named Yorktown. But you have the Yorktown Memorial Hospital. It sits in the small town, conveniently also named Yorktown, Texas, in DeWitt County. So it's between San Antonio and the Gulf of Mexico. I'll pull up a map here in a little bit so we can actually see specifically where this is at. But the town was founded in 1848 by Captain John York and Charles Eckert. Yorktown has a long history, though it's retained a small population over the years. Some of the original buildings from the town's early days in the 1850s actually still stand, giving it an eerie, preserved feel. Now, the small Texas town has its share of historical intrigue, but none as dark as the Yorktown Memorial Hospital. Now, a little bit on the backstory on this place. The Yorktown Memorial Hospital was first constructed back in 1950. So in the grand scheme of things, it's like not terribly too old. It opened in 1951, and it cost around $500,000 at the time to build it. It was operated by the Felician Sisters. It's a Catholic order of nuns who provided services mainly focused on drug and alcohol abuse treatment with expansions into general medical health care. Now, the hospital covered around 30,000 square feet, so it's pretty good size, featuring administrative offices, 2 wings filled with patient rooms, a chapel, and a basement, which, if you can imagine, the basement might be one of the eerier parts of this building now. You also had a second floor, which served as a living quarters for the staff, and the hospital remained active all the way up until 1986. So it didn't live too long of a life. It opened in 1951, ran through 1986. It closed due to a newer facility opening up in a neighboring town of Sierra, Texas. Now, afterward, it briefly functioned as a drug and alcohol rehabilitation center before permanently shutting down in the 1990s. Now, it had a little bit of a troubled legacy and reputation throughout its lifespan. Now, despite its religious affiliation, the hospital developed a dark reputation over its years. Staff turnover was always high throughout its operation, which reportedly led to poor standards of care and staggering mortality rates. One source claimed 500 patients died within the 6 years, with total deaths reaching an estimated 2,000 people during its time of operation. Now, this dark history has contributed to the hospital's haunted reputation, making it one of Texas's most popular sites for paranormal enthusiasts. So, since its closure, Yorktown Memorial Hospital has become known for intense paranormal activity. It is a frequently visited and investigated location, drawing in those curious about the supernatural with its tales of apparitions, eerie sounds, and strange sightings. So I actually got a list of some of the prominent hauntings associated with the Yorktown Memorial Hospital. First, you had Dr. Leon Nowierski, who was known as an incompetent doctor, so he wasn't good at doing his job.
Obviously.
Right? Dude, it's like, first of all, let's look at these photos. I know, like, it's been closed for a while, and yeah, people have gone in there, they've graffitied it, they've kind of messed around with it. But the bottom photo here, kind of in the middle, that's actually from Ghost Adventures. So they've been there, they filmed there. And you can just see it just looks like an eerie place and it's kind of gone.
Right.
It's been run down ever since then. But you had the main doctor there, Dr. Leon Nowierski. He was an incompetent doctor. He allegedly botched many procedures throughout his time there, including a tragic incident where he mistakenly slit a patient's throat during a thyroid surgery. Although there are no confirmed sightings of his apparition, his presence casts a dark shadow on the hospital's history, adding to the overall haunted lore of this hospital. You also had what's called Stacy. It was a spirit of a young girl, and is one of the most active like spirits or presences in the hospital. She was reportedly gifted a book called The Pokey Little Puppy by Dr. Nowinski himself, and visitors have reported seeing her in the library. She is known to interact with guests, even rolling a ball upon request. You also had the Felician sisters, which, if you remember, that's the like the Catholic nuns that kind of ran the facility for a while. Apparitions of the nuns who once ran the hospital are frequently seen, often dressed in full habit, so like their full garb. Known for their strictness, these spectral sisters are believed to react aggressively toward visitors with tattoos, with accounts of choking, scratching, and rushing encounters, meaning that, like, if you're standing in one room, you might get that weird sense of dread, and all of a sudden you see like something rush at you from the other side of the room.
Sheesh.
Yes. You also have this apparition known as TJ, who is thought to be an addict who came to the hospital seeking help, but tragically died at the back door when no one answered his calls for assistance. His spirit is seen near the hospital's back door, where he was found dead, still appearing lost and in need of help to this day. And lastly, you had what they refer to as the boiler room murders. This won't be the only boiler room I bring up, actually, out of my haunted places. There are these rumors of a double murder in the hospital's boiler room, where two individuals supposedly stabbed each other to death. Although unverified technically, human bloodstains were factually confirmed to be found in the boiler room after a formal forensic test, adding to the hospital's grim overall atmosphere. And so Yorktown Memorial Hospital, I kind of mentioned this, but since they have such a good reputation of being like a haunted hotspot, they actually appeared in the television show called Ghost Adventures. I think most people are probably familiar with that. It's kind of like Ancient Aliens for ghosts, if you think about it. It's kind of like the mainstream ghost hunting show. Captured a wide audience, sparking even further interest in its paranormal phenomena. For years, the hospital is open to the public for tours, drawing in, of course, paranormal groups and thrill seekers alike. Admission was actually only $25 for general tours, but unfortunately, they had to stop doing tours because technically the owner of the hospital stopped keeping up with the structural integrity of the building. So It became a risk just to like walk in there, because like they couldn't guarantee just the structural safety of the building. So they were like, yo, you can't be doing formal tours if a wall or a roof could cave in on somebody.
I couldn't tell.
Right, dude. It's these photos, like there's so many photos. People can Google this. You just look up Yorktown Memorial Hospital in Texas. But it doesn't look like a fun place. This top left one here, I think, kind of really cements it. It's just, it almost looks like a high school in a sense.
It reminds me of the Grave Encounters, that movie I told you about. It reminds me of that location. Like just how the structure of the building looks all in itself. Like it reminds me of that.
Yeah. Now I have the location of it real quick. Let me throw this up on Google Maps. Because for those of you who actually ever been to Jefferson, Texas, it's actually a fun little town just to drive to, not even for the paranormal stuff. It's very, how do I say this, traditional and old school with its architecture. It looks very much like, and this is going to sound weird, it looks like a deep southern town, meaning that it's a lot of red brick, a lot of Victorian homes and architecture, but it really is like out in the middle. Sorry, when I say, I'm already thinking ahead here, not with Jefferson. We're in Yorktown right now. This is how scattered my brain is right now. I was already thinking about a future one, but Yorktown's actually in between San Antonio and the Gulf. So, but we'll talk about Jefferson in a future one that I'll list out. But Yorktown's kind of halfway out there. It is really small. It's like out in the middle of nowhere. You can kind of see you can see every street and its name in the town, and that's kind of it for it.
As most small towns.
Yeah, but it's out there, dude. Let's see if I can actually get a clear shot here.
Now, see, it doesn't look big, but it is, though. Like, it's a decent size for it being a small town.
Yeah. The Google car didn't even bother driving technically up to it. It's tucked in there between the trees.
Yeah. I'm surprised it wasn't more fenced off.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Do you see?
Yeah. There's some blood there.
Just some blood there, like nothing crazy, nothing big.
This is the timeout cage.
What?
It's a lovely kitchen.
Yeah, dude. Definitely an A rating on the health code. You know.
Yeah. Maybe some subtle mold every now and then.
Yeah, dude. Nothing crazy, nothing crazy.
Apparently there's a casket in here, I guess.
Oh, and she's just having. Now, here's my thing about places like this. You still have people that own these locations, and I'm like, why do you still own it? Like, you're still paying property taxes, like, unless it's just owned by the city now, but it's like you're still paying property taxes for no reason whatsoever.
Yeah, there's got to be. They probably still do some kind of tours in a way, I'd imagine. Like, there's got to be something that's. I mean, if you think about like, I don't think property taxes are too terrible out in Yorktown.
No, but I'm just saying, it's like, come on now.
Yeah.
But it is what it is.
What do you got for your first one?
So I did no particular order of mine. I was just kind of like, oh, these 5, like I knew some of them that I was going to use already. Funny enough, I'm going to reference the stuff I have here, but I've also got a book for at least some of them. It's called The Big Book of Texas Ghost Stories, and it actually goes into to multiple different things. So I'm going to kind of read a little bit from this. Like maybe kind of reference a couple things, but for the most part, I'm just going to be kind of focusing on all this right here, just because has a little bit more interesting facts about it. So my first one is the Lady of White Rock Lake. I don't have any like obviously they're not going to have like any pictures or anything like that. But just to kind of show you, and I'm just going to kind of throw this map up here. Let's see here. So this is White Rock Lake. So if you look at Dallas, you have the airport.
Oh, so it's just like Northeast Dallas.
So nothing crazy. And a lot of people, they don't think much of this lake, but
I bet you it used to be a quarry at one point, because if they're calling it White Rock, it was probably a limestone quarry or something.
It may have some of the history behind it. Again, everything I'm about to read is stuff like, and I knew about this beforehand because my dad told me about this story a long, long time ago. I never did like a deep dive until really now, but so just to kind of like leave that up here, just so y'all can kind of just see in reference to that. But so the legend of the Lady at White Rock Lake is one of Dallas's most enduring ghost stories, steeped in mystery, sorrow, and spectral beauty. This eerie tale, passed down through generations, tells of a young woman whose spirit is forever tied to the tranquil yet dark waters of White Rock Lake. Her presence has haunted locals and visitors for nearly a century, inspiring a mix of fascination and fear. I have like a kind of a narrative deep dive, and I got some bullet points for some stuff as well. So on quiet, foggy nights when the waters of White Rock Lake are still and the moon casts an ethereal glow over the landscape, an unsettling figure may be glimpsed along the shoreline. She is known as the Lady of White Rock Lake, a ghostly apparition who has been described as strikingly beautiful yet shrouded in sadness. Her legend begins with a sighting, usually by an unsuspecting motorist who is driving along the lake's winding roads. Out of the mist, a woman appears. She is young, seemingly in her 20s, and her pale skin almost glows in the moonlight. She wears a delicate white gown, the fabric clinging to her as if soaked through, as though she's just emerged from the lake's dark depths. Dude, obviously, I'll do that.
I'm just poking fun at you in the chat while you read that. It's all good.
Her hair drips with water, and she raises her hand to flag down the driver. Her face is one of desperation mixed with a quiet, melancholic beauty. If the driver stops to help, the woman politely asks for a ride, her voice soft and urgent. She explains that she's had an accident and needs to get home. Her tone is calm, but her gaze is distant, as though her mind is somewhere far away. She often directs the driver to a specific address, typically somewhere in Dallas's affluent neighborhoods. She sits in the back seat, water pools beneath her, wetting the car seats. Some drivers report that they try to make conversation, but she rarely responds, remaining silent. Her expression blank as she gazes out the window, but before they reach her destination, when they look back at the rearview mirror, they realize she's no longer there. She has vanished without a sound, leaving behind nothing but a damp, chilling reminder of her presence in the form of a wet stain on the back seat.
Man, does she have to pay the cleaning fee?
So theories of her origin. The origins of Lady of White Rock Lake are unclear, with many versions of the tale offering slightly different backstories. The most common theory suggests that she was a young woman who drowned in the lake, possibly in a tragic accident or as the result of unrequited love. Some versions of the story speculate that she may have died on her wedding night wearing her wedding gown, a detail that could explain why she's always seen in a white dress, symbolizing a life cut short and a love that was never fulfilled. Other theories propose that she was part of a car accident that ended with her falling in the lake. Some claim her death dates back to the early 1930s or 1940s, while others think she may be be a more modern spirit, um, tied to the lake by an event known only to her. Yet no one knows her true identity, and no historical records match her description, adding to the haunting mystery surrounding her. In some versions of the tale, people claim they've gone to the address she gives them, only to find the homeowners have no idea who she could be. In other stories, drivers have been told by these homeowners that a young woman resembling her once lived there, but died tragically a long time ago. Documented encounters. Lady of White Rock Lake's story isn't merely folklore. Many people have come forward claiming that they have encountered her, from couples driving late at night to joggers along the lake's trails. Numerous sightings of the spectral figure have been reported. The consistency in her description and behavior adds to the chilling authenticity of her story. Numerous sightings, most accounts are from people who were driving near the lake or walking along its short night. They all describe a pale, wet woman in a white gown. The ride request, almost every reported encounter involves her asking for a ride and giving a specific address before disappearing from the vehicle.
I wonder
And
what that address is. You know,
it's,
has anyone thought to go look at that address?
well, it says that she asks to be taken to a different address throughout various
Oh.
areas of Dallas. So
She's a real estate mogul. She owns a lot of property.
I guess, man. She's like,
Yeah.
I gotta check on my property taxes. Um, um, After her disappearance, drivers constantly find a wet patch on the back seat, or in some cases, a lingering coldness as if a damp presence was just there. Some paranormal enthusiasts have tried to capture her on camera or through audio recordings, but the evidence is always elusive. Locals say that the Lady of White Rock Lake is not a ghost that can be easily documented. She appears when she chooses and only to those she deems worthy, or perhaps those who unintentionally summon her by driving along the lake on quiet, foggy nights. The Lady of White Rock Lake has become a beloved, if eerie, part of Dallas folklore. Her story is often retold around Halloween. Here we are. And her legend has brought paranormal investigators and ghost hunters to White Rock Lake, hoping to catch a glimpse of her or experience the supernatural chill that many claim to feel in her presence. The lake itself has become a location associated with haunted tours and ghost stories, drawing people from far and wide to see if they might encounter the lady themselves. Her tale, however, isn't just about fear. It's about tragedy, loss, and the powerful hold that some places can have on our spirits. In this sense, the Lady of White Rock Lake is a reminder of both the beauty and sorrow that accompany unresolved stories. Perhaps she wanders the lake in search of closure, unable to leave a place where her life came to a mysterious, untimely end. Key bullet points, location, White Rock Lake in Dallas, Texas. Her appearance, a young woman with pale skin dressed in waterlogged white gown, her hair and clothes dripping wet as if she just emerged. The encounter appears at the side of the road or along the lake, usually at night, flags down drivers asking for a ride home to a specific address, sits silently in the back seat, rarely responding, disappears before reaching the destination, leaving a wet stain. Multiple theories.
Does it reference when this legend began, kind of?
So aside from Daddy streaming, she's just the local crackhead.
Dude, well, what I'm wondering is that's actually pretty funny. Because what I'm wondering is, like, did the legend start before urban sprawl happened in Dallas? Because when you look at it on a map, it's not like in the city center. But of course, like, Dallas has sprawled enormous lengths over the decades. So it's almost like it is in the middle of a dense urban environment now. But at the time, was it still kind of like on the outskirts of town to where it kind of had that eerie, like, abandoned lake kind of vibe, whereas now it's like, yeah, it's just the local crackhead.
Okay, gotcha. Yeah, no, I mean, so the time frame that I have on here, it's kind of similar to what's on here. So they said that another version of the tale says that a bootlegger and his girlfriend were partying on a boat in the middle of the lake in the 1920s when they began arguing. After the boat docked, the intoxicated woman ran to the bootlegger's car, started the engine, and drove away at a high rate of speed. She lost control of the car at the intersection of Lothar Drive and Garland Road and plunged into the lake.
So she had a need for speed.
I guess. So let's see here. Yeah, so there's a couple different stories.
Maybe she owned the Yorktown Memorial Hospital and just didn't want to pay the property taxes. Just faked her death, and now she just created this whole lore around it.
Dude, I guess, man. I don't know, but yeah. So the legacy of it is a well-known ghost story in Dallas, shared among locals and visitors. They have haunted tours, and it reflects themes of tragic loss and unresolved endings. But it's definitely I still believe it's a true story because I've been told about this story since I was a kid. And so I've honestly never made my way out to this lake.
Well, you're in luck because you're going to. We're not going to end this live stream until you take your GoPro and you drive out there, and you're going to live stream the whole thing. Say goodbye to Dana. You're going to be driving out there. It's going to be exciting.
I'll just go buy a GoPro first because I don't have one.
You can use your cell phone. He'll be all right.
But yeah, so definitely an interesting story. Probably, I don't want to say it's the most interesting of the ones that I've got because there are a couple. I'm interested about the Fort Worth Zoo one because I don't know anything about that.
Me too. Is there like a haunted giraffe that's like walking around?
I don't know, man. I don't know. We're gonna find out though. But yeah, that's my number one or number five.
Nice. Here, let me throw up my screen again.
The address is a trap house.
It could be. Hey, if she's a local crackhead, you never know. All right,
got like little cave out there that she just hides in.
Well, maybe, dude. Like, if you think about it, it wouldn't be that hard to, I guess, create the lore around a haunting at a lake like that. Especially if you live within like a little bit of a drive, or if you are, the local crackhead, you might just be sleeping out there, and then as long as the police don't catch you, like. You're creating some spooky scenarios out there.
But then again, it doesn't explain the puddle that's left in the back seat. So
maybe she keeps a little water balloon in her pocket.
Or she just can't hold her pee.
That too. That's what the cleaning fee's for. All right. Up next, we got probably, I think this might be the deepest one in terms of like Texas history, since we're not really hitting on the Alamo. Funny enough, we got the Presidio La Bahía. If anyone grew up in the state of Texas, you might have remembered learning about the Goliad massacre in your middle school Texas history class. Well, the Presidio La Bahía played a pivotal role in that because it is located in, wait for it, Goliad, Texas. So Presidio La Bahía, it stands in Goliad, of course, as a relic of Spanish colonial history. It was actually first established in the year 1721 and moved to its current location in 1749. Now, this is a fort, for those of you who can pick up on that from the photos. The fort was initially constructed to actually defend against French forces and Native American attacks. Situated strategically along the San Antonio River, it became a crucial Spanish stronghold between the Mississippi and Rio Grande rivers, serving as a key stopover on military and trade routes. Originally a wooden structure, it was rebuilt in stone, symbolizing Spain's determination to control Texas and then the region as a whole. Now, a little bit more on the backstory for you here. During the Mexican War of Independence between 1810 and 1821, the Presidio saw intense conflict. Mexican revolutionaries and American militias captured La Bahía in the year 1812, although Spanish forces later reclaimed it. Now, by the end of the war, Mexico achieved independence and La Bahía became part of Mexican Texas, further solidifying its status as a vital military garrison in the region. Fast forward a little bit, in the Texas Revolution, La Bahía was seized by Texan forces in the year 1835 after a brief but intense skirmish, and then it was later renamed Fort Defiance. Unfortunately, it fell under the command of Colonel James Fannin. Fannin and his men attempted to support the Alamo, but logistical challenges forced them to abandon the mission altogether. And in March 1836, following the Alamo's fall, Fannin and his men were ordered to retreat from La Bahía. Now, on their journey out of there, they were unfortunately ambushed by Mexican General Jose de Urias' forces, leading to their capture and eventual execution in the notorious Goliad massacre. Now, on March 27th, 1836, nearly 450 captured Texan soldiers, including Fannin, were executed by Mexican forces outside of the Presidio. Fannin's death was especially brutal, according to history books, where he was blindfolded and was asked to be shot in the heart rather than the face. So that way he could actually receive a Christian burial and for his watch to be sent to his family. Naturally, in the heat of combat, his requests were denied. So he was shot in the face, his watch was taken, and his body was left to burn. The massacre was a defining moment in the Texas Revolution, rallying support for Texas's independence efforts. So, why is this place haunted? Well, the bloodshed and tragedy that took place at La Bahía have left a lasting impact, and many visitors believe the site is haunted by the restless spirits of soldiers and prisoners. The most prominent hauntings include none other than Colonel James Fannin himself. Now, the ghost of Fannin is often seen in the courtyard where he awaited his execution. Many visitors describe feeling a sudden chill, and some see a blindfolded figure in a chair, as if still awaiting his final moments. There's cold sensations and ghostly footsteps accompanying these sightings, of course, as well as distant echoes of cannon fire. There's also screams and phantom blood. Some visitors report hearing screams and cries in the quadrangle, which is like, you can see that in the top right here of kind of like the courtyard area. Some people claim that they hear screams and cries in that part of the building, believed to be the echoes of the massacred soldiers. People have seen what they refer to as phantom blood stains on the courtyard walls, often accompanied by the foul smell of rotting flesh, a chilling reminder of the brutality that occurred there. And then lastly, you have the hauntings in the Our Lady of Loretta Chapel. So I don't have a photo of it here, but in the top left, you can see there's like an entry door there. Maybe I'll pull up a photo on Google here in a second, but there's actually a chapel built in here. So within this chapel, spectral figures are frequently seen, including a woman in black holding a candle in mourning. Another apparition, a woman in white. So that way you get, the dichotomy. You got the woman in black, you got the woman in white. Also roams the courtyard, apparently, searching for a lost grave. Now, the chapel is empty, but you can hear sounds of crying babies, organ music, a woman's choir, unexplained bell chimes create an eerie ambiance. Some people even think that it might be haunted by a robed monk as well, who is like protecting the space from these visitors, just to, protect sacred ground, basically. Now, in modern days, there's actually a museum, and it's a state historical site. So Presidio La Bahía offers visitors a glimpse into the tragic past. Those who visit often feel an unmistakable, haunting presence, as if the spirits of the fallen linger, bound by the brutal events that unfolded there. One thing that's kind of interesting that's about this place and a lot of other like war sites in the United States, and this is probably true for all places of conflict around the world, but Riley, I don't know if you ever hear stories about people that go to like Gettysburg and like these Civil War battle sites, and they just get this like weird sense or this weird feeling of just being on that ground, knowing that there was like great conflict and like struggle there.
Like you feel like a power, just like that strong sense of, well, like just like that battle that had like there, you just feel that presence.
Yeah. And so it's kind of interesting how like this place falls into that camp. There's actually a lot of places in Texas just because of the Texas Revolution. I mean, you got the Alamo, you got here, there's the hotel next to the Alamo. There's a lot of like bloody sites that kind of bring with it that, I guess, somber feeling. I don't know how to describe it because I honestly haven't felt it myself. But you read countless stories about people that go to these war sites, and you get a sense of being able to feel the death and the tragedy that occurred there. I'm going to throw up on the screen real quick exactly where Goliad is, in case anyone's in the state of Texas or happens to be visiting, you are curious. Goliad itself is, yes, another small town. It's kind of the closest big town would say like Victoria, maybe Corpus. It's actually very close to like Yorktown as well. So you can actually see here's Yorktown. So you could actually hit up the same day within the same couple hours. You hit up Yorktown, you go south on 119, you hit, funny enough, Highway 183. I wish you could take that up to Austin. You go down to Goliad, and then you have the Goliad State Park and historical site, and then you have Presidio La Bahía over here. So I'll throw up some more photos here. So here's actually what the chapel looks like.
It's actually still in great condition.
Yeah, it's a cracked bell. Let me see if I can find another photo.
There's always a cracked bell.
There's always a cracked bell, dude. You know, here's like the backside of the chapel. Here's a better photo. So it's a kind of a cool little historical site. A lot of people don't ever think to go visit like Texas Revolutionary sites, but a lot of them are, have senses of haunting. Let's see if I can play this real quick. Oh, here's a little flyover. You can kind of see the whole site. It's a pretty big site because unlike the Alamo, I mean, you can still see the vast majority of the walls that encompass this mission, which became a fort. So you see the school buses. I'm sure they do some school trips here.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So, Presidio, La Bahía. A lot of people died there. Actually died.
Well, I don't think a whole lot of mine involve people dying, if I'm not mistaken. I could be wrong, though. Maybe the railroad track one for sure. Goatman's Bridge is going to be interesting. I'll be honest, I may actually pivot and do that one last because that one's a little bit different than some of the other ones, per se.
Goatman's Bridge might be one of my favorite ones. I wanted to save that one for you because I know you're still living in Denton. Like, that one's a fun one.
Yeah. So
it's not fun, but it's dark.
Right. So I may pivot and save that one for last. But for now, we're going to make our way up north again to the Fort Worth Zoo. And I mean, it's pretty self-explanatory. Fort Worth Zoo is, well, in Fort Worth.
Spoiler alert.
Right. Let's see here. Let's do this. So it's actually not like a super huge. I mean, it kind of is, but it's kind of not. But just to kind of show you where it's at, just so you see. But I mean, you pretty much
Have you thought how wild it is that Fort Worth has a zoo and Dallas has a zoo?
Yeah. And it's funny, I've been to both of them and including the Tyler Zoo. So we've got, technically, I think we got 4 zoos because we got San Antonio, Tyler, Fort Worth, and Dallas. I don't know if there's any more, but I know we got those.
Waco, San Antonio.
Waco. Does Houston have a zoo?
I would assume. I don't know if actually. I would assume so. They're too big not to have one.
So at least 5 that I know of. But Fort Worth Zoo is pretty cool. I don't think this is actually a part of it as well. I could be wrong. I don't think that's a part of it.
You have like demonic otters running around?
Dude, we're about to find out. So the Fort Worth Zoo by day is a bustling, family-friendly environment filled with animal exhibits and cheerful crowds. But after the gates close and darkness falls, an unsettling silence blankets the zoo. Only the sound of animals shifting in their enclosures, distant rustles, and the occasional echoing cry punctuate the quiet, creating a haunting backdrop for those who find themselves lingering on the grounds after hours. One of the most well-known spirits in the zoo is said to be that of an old zookeeper who worked there many decades ago. This man, devoted to his job and the animals under his care, spent his entire career tending to the zoo's creatures. According to legend, he passed away unexpectedly, but his spirit never left. Security guards and zookeepers working late at night report glimpses of a shadowy figure moving silently through the grounds. Some say he appears near the animal enclosures as if he's still watching over his charges, while others hear faint footsteps echoing in deserted pathways. So he doesn't seem like a bad guy.
I'm getting the vibe where it's like not night at the museum, but it's like night at the zoo.
Yeah. The primate area is also rumored to be particularly haunted. Zookeepers have recounted strange happenings such as lights flickering on and off or eerie sounds that seem to mimic the cries of the animals. Some say that certain cages seem colder than others, as if touched by an unseen presence. A few brave souls who have ventured near these areas at night claim they felt a sudden chill or heard whispers, though no one else was around. It is a zoo at the end of the day. Take all this with a grain of salt. It could just be an animal just being an animal.
I'm sticking to my demonic turtles idea.
All right, that's fair. First it was penguins, then it was otters, now it's turtles. Okay, so we're gonna continue.
It's all possessed, dude. The whole thing is ridden with ghosts.
Another frequently reported phenomenon involves children's laughter heard near the petting zoo section long after closing time. This laughter, though seemingly innocent, unsettles those who hear it as there are no children around. Some speculate that it might be the residual energy of past visitors or even a child who once frequented the zoo but passed away. The zoo's reptile house has its own collection of ghostly rumors. Late-night visitors and staff claim they've seen shadows darting through the dimly lit corridors. There's a legend of a man once died in the building, whether through accident or misfortune. The details are unclear, and his presence is still felt. Staff members report a sense of being watched and occasional noises like soft footsteps when no one else is around. The eeriest stories come from the old administrative building, now converted into a storage area. Formerly housing zoo offices, this building is said to be haunted by spirits, possibly past the staff members. Late at night, security guards have heard the doors creaking open, papers rustling, and even distant voices, as though someone were having a conversation. Some have even seen an apparition of a woman dressed in old-fashioned attire moving through the building's hallways before vanishing. Despite these eerie occurrences, staff members believe that the spirits are not malevolent, but are simply tied to the place, possibly due to their love for the zoo and its animals. Over the years, paranormal investigators have been drawn to the Fort Worth Zoo to investigate these claims, but the true nature of these hauntings remain a mystery. So you got the zookeeper's ghost. These are just some notable hauntings. The primate area. Again, some of that could just, animals are smart. People know this. Like, they could just be having fun.
Well, yeah, you had that documentary, Planet of the Apes.
Yeah, dude.
Yeah.
Children's laughter, the reptile house, the old administrative building, and just the paranormal activity as a whole. The ghostly happenings of the Fort Worth Zoo add an unexpected layer to its history, creating a blend of natural and supernatural. These spectral presences are woven into the fabric of the zoo, adding a touch of mystery to a place primarily known for its living inhabitants. Whether these tales are rooted in reality or are simply the products of overreactive imaginations, they contribute to the unique atmosphere of the Fort Worth Zoo, where past and present seem to coexist in harmony, even if that harmony is sometimes interrupted by a ghostly footstep or a child's distant laughter in the dark. I will say it's probably not true. Like, I mean, it is a zoo at the end of the day, and maybe you've had accidents that have happened, things like that, but who knows?
This is honestly the first time I've heard about a haunted zoo.
Yeah.
But also, I don't think I ever look into trying to find haunted zoos, to be honest with you. I don't think I've ever Googled those two words together, but I feel like that is a children's movie in the making, similar to like Night at the Museum. Like, get me, I don't know,
Robert Nights at Freddy.
Yeah, but like, there's got to be like a family fun movie. It's got to be like PG. It's got a hint of like ghostly apparitions, but you can still take your middle school or your elementary school kid to go see it. Maybe it's got Robert Downey Jr. as the lead, playing a family-friendly, zookeeper. Maybe he's new on the job, and the penguins try to warn him, and they laugh at him. I don't know. I feel like he'd get ChatGPT to start working on a script for me for a haunted zoo movie.
Right. But yeah, I don't know. That one's a little. It's not weird, but it's just like you said. Like, I even looked through that ghost book, and that's where I found that one at, and I didn't see any other one that talked about a zoo in any of them.
Yeah, so, it might be the only one. We'll look into it. It might be the only haunted zoo in the country. Who knows?
Yeah.
Well, right. Cool.
Take us on to the next one.
Yeah. Well, I had a Freudian slip, and I meant to talk about this one earlier on in the episode. We have the Jefferson Hotel in Jefferson, Texas. So you can see the photos here. This is actually still like a working hotel. You can actually go have a night, stay here, take a long weekend, go visit Jefferson, Texas. I'll throw it up on a map here a little bit, but Jefferson, Texas is a small little town. So like if you're a big old city boy, city girl, you're not going to like Jefferson that much. But it's a fun place to go get a B&B, spend the weekend there, go antiquing.
Maybe get possessed.
Yeah, maybe you could get casually possessed while you're out there. Who knows? But they have a nice like Victorian architecture. It's from like a bygone era, for better or worse. So you have the Jefferson Hotel, naturally located in Jefferson, Texas. It's actually considered one of the top 10 haunted hotels in all of Texas. And we'll talk about another one here in a little bit. But this hotel actually used to be called the Con Saloon. Now, the building overall dates back to the year 1865, when it served as a saloon and brothel in Jefferson's rough and tumble days as a bustling riverport town. That's the other thing. Jefferson is on a river. This is back when they used to use like riverboats to literally move people and stuff around, like pre-automobile. Kind of wild. So Jefferson back in the day was known for its violent past. The hotel was later transformed into a funeral home, further solidifying its eerie reputation. And after extensive renovations in 2016, it became the Jefferson Hotel, a hotspot for ghost hunters and curious visitors alike. So the Jefferson Hotel's dark history is full of violence and loss. One of the most notable events involves a deadly shootout just inside the saloon's front doors, where a local deputy and a patron shot and killed each other. This tragic incident is said to echo through time, where people still report hearing gunshot sounds heard even to today. There's also several other tragic tales that fuel the hotel's haunted reputation. You have what's called Jessica and her son Andrew. So Jessica, a madame in the former brothel, and her young son Andrew were reportedly murdered during a robbery upstairs. Jessica is frequently seen on the staircase and in the upper windows, always dressed in white. And there's always a woman dressed in white in these stories. Now, her son Andrew is known for his playful nature, often pulling visitors' hair or rattling door handles. Now, paranormal investigators have frequently identified these spirits, with 75% of the investigators reporting encounters with Andrew and 90% of their investigations encountering Jessica. You also had the bride and groom tragedy that occurred there. So another well-known ghostly resident is believed to be what is known as Billy, a groom whose elopement ended in tragedy. Now, according to the legend, a young couple traveled to Jefferson to marry, followed by the bride's father, who was vehemently against the marriage and overall union. During a violent confrontation upstairs, the bride was accidentally pushed from a window and fell to her death on the street below. The father then reportedly hanged the groom from the rafters in the upstairs rear corner. Now, Billy's spirit is said to haunt this area, tolerating women more than men and frequently causing disturbances to keep people away from where he was hung. Now, you also have the ghost of Jacqueline. So Jacqueline was a prostitute who came to Jefferson in the 1860s, allegedly took her own life after witnessing a violent brawl between two men who killed each other over her. Now,
can I just say, sorry,
yeah, go for it.
Can I just say that that's such a prostitute thing to do? Like, oh my God, these two men were fighting over me, I'm going to kill myself. Instead of really thinking like, I'm a prostitute, I could just go find another man to satisfy my needs and desires. Like, if you didn't have that strong bond with either of those men, why?
Business was good. I don't know.
I guess business was, I don't know. It was booming, I guess.
Yeah, she had a bunch of good regulars. Now, her spirit is often heard crying or moaning, with frequent sightings near the spot where she took her last breath. Now, interesting stat. And if you go to the Jefferson Hotel's website, they have all these stats. It's kind of interesting. They do have footnotes, so I'm assuming they've been vetted. It says over 75% of paranormal investigators have reported encounters with the ghost of Jacqueline. So it's interesting, even though, it was a saloon, then it was a brothel, then it was a funeral home, now it's a hotel again. It's still kind of a brothel to this day, if over 75% of these paranormal investigators are still encountering the famed prostitute of Jacqueline.
Even from the grave, she's still trying to make a living.
Yeah.
I get it.
That was pretty good. Now, the Jefferson Hotel has actually seen over 300 paranormal investigations in just the past decade alone. And many spirits appear repeatedly across investigations, adding to the credibility of the overall place being, a place where hauntings occur. There are actually some more notable spirits and ghostly behaviors in the building, one of which is called the Watchman. So this is a ghostly figure which is often heard outside of the building, tapping on windows with what sounds like a metal object believed to be the barrel of a shotgun. Now, his presence is meant to reassure visitors, but the metallic tapping has been reported on the second floor windows over 20 feet from the ground, adding to the overall mystery of what the heck is causing that sound. You also have what people refer to as Abigail, which is another spirit identified by about 65% of the investigators. Abigail was also Abigail was also a prostitute in the building. Her cause of death remains unknown, but guests have reported feeling someone sit on their bed in the middle of the night. Could you imagine? That's just terrifying. Just to know, you get that feeling of whatever that is.
Her and Jacqueline are fighting for that business, man. I'm telling you.
Yeah. Last but not least, people have also referred to something called the Naked Lady. So more recently in the overall history, visitors have begun seeing the apparition of a young woman standing in the third upstairs window, unclothed and smiling. I'm sure she's, showing the goods. She's believed to be a woman who visited the hotel intending to move to Jefferson, but tragically died in a car accident. Her spirit reportedly began appearing shortly after her death, and her apparition was even captured in a photo by a ghost hunter in 2016. I'll Google that here in a little bit because I didn't have it on the screen here. But there's, of course, other hauntings at the Jefferson Hotel, all sorts of paranormal activity, you know, people feeling as though they've been touched or gently pulled in like a certain direction, mysterious personal items moving around without, you know, explanation. The back entrance of the building, where a prostitute is said to have died after being attacked, has produced spontaneous blood stains, which guests have photographed over the years. In May 2016, a guest captured an image of a large blood stain that appeared just inside the rear door. In June of that same year of 2016, a paranormal group recorded unsettling audio, including a woman's scream, a gunshot, and repeated pleas for help. For those who enjoy the thrill of the supernatural, this hotel promises an intense and unforgettable experience. Although I can't help but also point out that this always hasn't been a hotel. It more recently has been, you know, retrofitted to become a hotel. So how much of this is fact versus just really good tourism marketing? I cannot tell you what is true versus what is folklore, but it is really honestly one of the more I guess studied hotels in terms of like haunted hotels in the state of Texas. It really does have like pretty solid lore around it. So if anyone is even remotely interested, it's very easy to book rooms here. It's a functioning hotel. So you can go there on a whim and spend the night and hope you survive it.
It gives me very much New Orleans vibes.
Yes.
Like
a lot of Jefferson has a bit of that vibe to it. And here, let me throw up the screen so you can see where this is at. So Jefferson, it's kind of out here. It's closer to Shreveport than it really is anywhere else. It's north of Marshall, Texas, over between Caddo Lake and Lake of the Pines. Small little town out here. It's a long, big cypress bayou out here.
All yours are in small towns, man.
Yeah. But you can see here, they do it up for Christmas time. Jefferson Hotel. I don't know who this is, but let's see if we can find real quick. Let's see here. I'm going to look up Jefferson Hotel, Texas. And I'll share my screen here. Ghost photo. Let's see if we can find this apparent ghost photo real quick. Is it this photo?
Dude, I have trouble sometimes with like photos of the paranormal.
Yeah.
Because sometimes, like, I mean, Photoshop is such a big thing today, and people are so good at it if you just take the time to learn how to do it. So it's like they could just take a photo and just like throw a white splotch up there and be like, oh my God, it's a ghost. You know?
Oh, for sure. For sure. Yeah, honestly, if I can't really find it that quick, it's not real. Let's be honest. It's good for tourism. I get it. But let me look up the hotel real quick. No, I don't want to share my location. Who do you think I am?
He's going to go stay there. That's what's about to happen.
Yeah. Oh, I want the one in Texas. That's the problem. There's another Jefferson hotel that's not in Texas. You want the historic one. They got a nice little website. They got photos of what it looks like. You can see the different rooms, 279, 169, 229. So yeah, you can go there, you know, relatively inexpensive, knowing that it's like an all-encompassing experience.
I'll be honest, if I go there, I'm not sleeping.
No, I'm not either. Also, these rooms, I don't know if they designed them to be kind of like, you know, not calming, but they put just enough like little knickknacks and nonsense on the walls. Like, look at this one right here that I'm hovering over. Like, let me zoom in on it. I can't.
Like, why do you need all that in that room? But hey,
it's to make your mind wander in the middle of the night.
I guess, man. I guess it is what it is. But that, I mean, it's still interesting. It's still pretty cool. Like I said, I like the fact that it has a similar New Orleans vibe to it. So
yeah, let me real quick. Let's see, Jefferson, Texas. You can go ahead and go on to yours. I was gonna try to pull some quick photos of Jefferson, Texas, but
I mean, if you still find them, that's fine.
Yeah, it's all good. It's a lot of like Victorian homes, and it's like from It's like from a bygone era. Here, let me throw this up real quick, just give people an idea of what I'm talking about. It's got like the pinstripe flags and the old general store building, and it's got some red brick. But then also, it's in East Texas, so I mean, you get like Caddo Lake, and you can get lost in the pine trees a little bit. You get little knickknack shops and stuff like that. So it's a fun little day trip out there.
So my next one, hold on, let's see here. My next one, like I said, I'm gonna save one for last.
Yeah.
But this one is Stephen F. Austin University. I'll just kind of show you some pictures and things like that. But first, I'll show you the map. So this is Nacogdoches, which is where Stephen F. Austin University is at. The university pretty much takes up like an eighth of the city itself, or the town itself. It's actually one of the smaller towns that I have on here, but
it's also the oldest city in Texas.
Yeah, it is. It is the oldest city in Texas, and so there's not a lot there. I will say that. That was actually originally where me and Dana were going to move to, because she wanted to go to SFA, but realizing that there were no jobs, there was really nothing there besides the school.
The economy is the school, basically.
Yeah, so like it wouldn't have done us any good. So we ended up in Denton. So good for that, because it's how I met my good friend here.
Yeah.
And so, but just to kind of show you some photos as well, just so if any of you ever want to look it up, or if you ever decide you want to go to school here, it is a it's a pretty large campus, and it's one of the oldest campuses, but apparently it's also got some haunting aspects to it as well. So Stephen F. Austin State University in Nacogdoches, Texas, has a storied history with a reputation that extends beyond its academic achievements. Daddy streaming. Over the years, tales of ghostly apparitions, unexplained noises, and chilling encounters have made the campus a hotspot for paranormal intrigue. Students, faculty, and visitors alike have reported strange occurrences, particularly in certain buildings where it seems spirits may linger, forever tied to the university grounds. In the early morning hours, when the halls of Stephen F. Austin State University are quiet and deserted, strange phenomena have been known to occur. The university, founded in 1923, has seen nearly a century of students, professors, and visitors come and go, yet some believe not all have truly left. Legends of spirits roaming the campus have been passed down through generation, becoming an integral part of the university's lore. Some of the most infamous hauntings have said to take place in Griffith Hall, a dormitory with a particularly eerie sound. Built in the 1950s, Griffith Hall has been subject to many ghostly encounters, with students and staff reporting unsettling experiences. The spirit that is believed to haunt this dormitory is that of a young woman who tragically took her own life. Dang, Jay, what are you doing, man? Dang, you ghosted this woman, and this is what happened? Dad, gum.
That's the way you know you're from Texas, when you say dad gum.
Dad gum, man. Late at night, students have reported hearing the faint sound of sobbing in empty rooms or hallways. Dude, you broke her heart, man.
Left her on red.
Students, some even claim to see shadowy figures passing by, or sense a sudden drop in temperature, as if an unseen presence has brushed past them. Another site on campus with haunted reputation is the W.M. Turner Auditorium, which my best guess is that the auditorium is probably, I feel like that building there, like that's probably, I would assume that that's probably the auditorium.
Do they have like an OG auditorium? Because if you think about like a lot of colleges, like the OG auditorium is now just like some small volleyball gym somewhere.
Yeah, and that could be it too. It could be back off in there, but just kind of looking at over here.
Yeah.
But yeah, so in the Griffith Fine Arts Building, this building, home to SFA's theater program, is said to be frequented by an apparition known as Sydney. Legend has it that Sydney was an actor who once performed in the theater and met an untimely death. Now his spirit supposedly lingers, watching over rehearsals and performances. Theater students and faculty claim to hear strange noises in the auditorium, like footsteps in empty spaces or soft whispering from unseen sources. Props and set pieces sometimes go missing or move on their own, and lights flicker inexplicably. Some students say that if you are alone in the auditorium, you may catch a glimpse of a shadowy figure at the edge of the stage, as though watching silently from the wings. One of the lesser known but equal unsettling locations is Wilson Hall, another dormitory with its share of ghost stories. Wilson Hall was closed down for years, in part due to its deteriorating condition, but also because of the strange occurrences that residents experienced. Rumors swirled among students that the building was haunted, with some saying they heard mysterious footsteps echoing through the empty corridors. A few even reported seeing ghostly apparitions on the upper floors, where lights would inexplicably turn on and off despite no one being there. Though it has since been renovated, the tales of eerie encounters linger, and some students still avoid the hall, claiming it holds an unsettling energy. The university library is another site where students and staff have reported paranormal activity. Some say they felt an invisible presence watching them from the corners, or it could just be the 80-year-old librarian that still works there.
Could be.
While others have heard the faint sounds of pages turning or books falling from the shelves with no one around. These events are usually dismissed by skeptics, but those who've experienced them firsthand are convinced the library has a life or perhaps an afterlife of its own. These ghostly tales have made Stephen F. Austin University an unexpected destination for ghost hunters and paranormal enthusiasts. Some visit out of curiosity, hoping to catch a glimpse of the famed apparitions, while others avoid these buildings entirely, preferring not to tempt fate. Whether fact or legend, the ghost stories of SFA add a unique layer to campus life, blending the past with the present in an eerie and unforgettable way. They only listed those few places. I mean, with it being as old as it is, it wouldn't surprise me if there's more. That these are probably just the most notable ones. But
yeah, if I remember correctly, there's a building on that campus called the Old Stone Fort, and I'm pretty sure that's also haunted because, if I remember correctly, I might be misremembering some of these facts, but if you Google it, it's the Old Stone Fort. At one point, was it after the Texas Revolution, or was it after? It was after a conflict, and there was like a group of people that were held up in that building because they wanted to like continue to be like broken away from the current government. I think it was after the Texas Revolution. It had to have been, but they were attempting to break away, and they were like held up in that building. And I think they ended up surrendering at one point. I remember that building, like it wasn't part of campus at first, and then it became part of campus. It was called the Old Stone Fort, I'm pretty sure.
I say this is what I found when I looked it up.
Yeah, the Old Stone Fort Museum, located on the campus of SFA in Nacogdoches. Oh, it is a 1936 replica at a different location of a structure that had been erected circa 1779 by Nacogdoches militia commander Antonio Gil Ybarbo. The original building was never a fort in spite of its structure. After more than a century serving various purposes, the original structure was demolished. Okay. It was the Fredonian Rebellion. That's what it was. The original stone fort was built of native iron ore in 1779 as a mercantile house. Because of its iron brick construction, it was referred to as the Stone House. 1805, the guy sold it to this other guy in 1806. It got sold again. Hang on, I'm trying to get to like the juicy part of the story here. Let's see here. This guy operated an import-export business catering to the indigenous tribes of the area. Davenport established his headquarters at the Nacogdoches agent for the firm in the Old Stone Fort. Davenport outlived his partners. Smith died in 1807. Murphy in 18... Okay, whatever. Let's see here. In a prelude to the Fredonian Rebellion, Benjamin Hayden, brother to Impresario, so this is how far back this goes. The guy's title is Impresario, Hayden Edwards, led several followers in seizing the building on December 16th, 1826. Shortly thereafter, Colonel Jose de las Piedras used the structure as his headquarters. In 1829, John Mary Durst purchased the stone house. Anyways, there was a rebellion. The Fredonian Rebellion was the first attempt by Texans to secede from Mexico. The settlers, led by Impresario Hayden Edwards, who we talked about, declared independence from Mexican Texas and created the Republic of Fredonia near Nacogdoches. It was a short-lived republic, encompassed the land the Mexican government had granted to Edwards in 1825. Yada, yada, yada. But I just remembered, I was like, that stone fort was part of SFA's campus, or still is.
Gotcha.
But it's a replica. I thought it was the original one. It's a replica. Nothing's haunted there. It's all lies and slander.
Well, considering that Nacogdoches is the oldest city, and considering that the university was established in 1923, along with probably a lot of other universities, you have to think universities when they were first established were like, here's 2 buildings, this is your university, and then they were all torn down, or they may still maintain those same structures, but then they just build up around it, or rebuild the buildings essentially. But yeah, like I said, those are some of the more noted ones: the library, the Wilson Hall, the Turner Auditorium. And then it just goes to like the activity and the reputation as a whole. And then known as one of the more haunted universities in Texas, attracting ghost hunters and paranormal enthusiasts. Stories add a unique aspect to campus life, creating a blend of historical lore and eerie encounters. Definitely interesting. I've walked on the campus, but this was like when school was out also. I mean, granted, it was during the day, but it does have a sense of that historical feeling, but then that just like that sense of like, okay, there's something that could be here,
Yeah.
So
yeah, my sister did a year there, and then a lot of my extended family also went there. So been there. Beautiful campus. It's like in the middle of the pines. It's a good time, but it's out there.
Yeah.
All right. I thought about maybe going on to the topic of University of North Texas, but I'm going to save that one for last. So what I'm going to do up next, just to mix things up, we're headed to the live music capital of the world, Austin, Texas, for the Driskill Hotel. Built in 1886 by cattle baron Colonel Jesse Driskill, the Driskill Hotel has become one of Austin's most haunted landmarks, known for its grand Romanesque revival architecture, which I'll pause for a moment. You can really see this in the top 2 photos. It's an absolutely beautiful building. It's actually located on 6th Street. Like, it's in the thick of dirty 6th Street. So that's what's kind of funny about the whole thing. It's got a 6th Street address. Known for its grand Romanesque revival architecture, the hotel was financed with what many nowadays would refer to as blood money from Driskill's lucrative business selling beef to the Confederate Army throughout the Civil War. Afterward, Driskill lost his wealth due to unfortunate gambling habit and poor investments, and ultimately forfeited ownership of the hotel in a high-stakes poker game. Now, the dark start, along with the hotel's location on land, which was once considered sacred by Native American tribes, is believed by some to have cursed the Driskill with a karmic energy that lingers to this very day. Now, what are these ghosts and spirits that haunt this? Naturally, of course, you have Colonel Jesse Driskill and his spirit. The ghost of Colonel Driskill himself is among the most frequently reported apparitions. Known for his love of cigars, guests and staff often report catching the strong scent of cigar smoke in the lobby, even though the hotel is now non-smoking. One particularly vivid encounter involved a guest waking up to see a man standing by the window, the room filled with cigar smoke. When the guest turned on the light, the figure disappeared, but the smell of cigar smoke remained, and the curtains still swayed. Now, Colonel Driskill's presence serves as a reminder of the hotel's turbulent beginnings and the spirit of the man who actually created the whole dang thing. You also have the tragic bride of room 329. Now, this is one of the more heartbreaking stories tied to the Driskill Hotel, and it involves a young bride who checked into room 329 in the early 1990s after her fiancé called off their wedding. Now, over the next several days after the wedding was called off, she reportedly spent over $40,000 of his money on a shopping spree before tragically ending her life in the hotel room. Now, if you Google it, she took her life in a very tragic way that I'm not going to throw up on this live stream right now, but she took a pretty gruesome way out. Guests frequently report seeing
talk about that afterwards.
Yeah, we can. Guests frequently report seeing a figure of the bride with shopping bags in the halls near room 329, a somber reminder of her grief. Now, reminder, that happened in the 90s. So, like, room 329 is still very much there, very similar to what it was during that time period. You also have Samantha, also called the Child Ghost. Samantha is a playful spirit, often spotted on the hotel's grand staircase or near the haunting 5th floor painting called Love Letter, based on Charles Garland's work. The painting is rumored to depict the daughter of a U.S. senator who fell to her death in the hotel while chasing a ball. Guests often hear the faint sound of a bouncing ball along with soft giggles in the stairway. Some children who visit the Driskill even report playing with a friend they call Samantha, making her one of the hotel's most famous and friendly ghosts. So basically what happened with that was you had this child of a senator while the Texas Senate was happening, and she was like playing with a bouncy ball basically, and literally tumbled down. There's a grand staircase, and you can kind of see it in one of the bottom photos here. When you walk into the first floor entryway, you'll see this grand staircase. Kind of reminds me of like the Titanic grand staircase in a sense. Child, unfortunately, literally, it's like fell down the staircase and like life ended through that means. You also have the haunted painting, which kind of referenced this, but it's called The Love Letter. It's a painting on the 5th floor of the Driskill, and it has its own chilling reputation. Those who walk by it often report feeling a strange, unsettling presence or the sensation of being watched. Some guests have even claimed they feel a need to leave the hotel shortly after passing it. Paranormal investigators believe this painting, often associated with the young girl Samantha, who we just spoke about, contributes to the hotel's overall eerie ambiance to those who visit. You also have Peter Lawless, which is otherwise referred to as the longtime resident. So in the early 20th century, Peter Lawless, a railroad ticket agent, lived at the Driskill for over 30 years. His ghost, frequently seen on the 5th floor, is known for his habit of checking his pocket watch and nodding to staff before vanishing. Housekeeping staff also report feeling a tingling sensation before glimpsing an older man in dark pants and a white shirt, assumed to be Lawless, who then disappears before their very eyes. Now, this one's kind of unique. The ghosts of LBJ and Lady Bird Johnson. So in 1934, Lyndon B. Johnson had his first. So I'll pause right there. For those who don't know, LBJ, former president of the United States, longtime Texas politician, kind of legendary, took over after the JFK assassination. There's a whole conspiracy rabbit hole to be had there. I digress. In 1934, Lyndon B. Johnson had his first date with his future wife, Lady Bird, at the Driskill. The hotel became a significant place for the couple, with LBJ even celebrating his Senate and presidential victories here. Some guests have reported catching a glimpse of LBJ and Lady Bird's reflection in the ballroom mirrors, as if the couple is still celebrating their milestones together in the hotel that meant so much to them. You also have the hallowed ground and cursed location aspect of it, which I kind of mentioned in the opening part, but the Driskill's location itself, just like the ground it literally sits on, is believed by some to be inherently haunted, as it stands atop land that was once sacred to multiple Native American tribes, including the Apache, the Tonkawa, and the Comanche. The natural artesian well beneath the site was once regarded as spiritually significant, and many believe this energy contributes to the hauntings reported at the Driskill. Now, this combination of sacred ground, dark beginnings, and tragic events has helped cement its reputation as one of Texas's most haunted hotels. Now, what's kind of interesting too, unrelated to the hauntings, just it's kind of unique, and a lot of people don't realize this. If you ever find yourself in Austin, a lot of people get distracted with the front entrance of the Driskill and the beauty of that. A lot of people don't realize there's like a tiny house on top of the Driskill also. So picture like a skyscraper in a sense. There's like a house literally on the roof of the Driskill. I'll leave you with that.
I wonder if somebody owns it separately.
People have lived in it separately throughout the years. I think it's considered like a penthouse suite these days that you can actually rent out. But just to show you where this is located on a map real quick. So here's the Driskill. This is 6th Street. It's like right in the thick of Austin. So here's like the Capitol. Here's the Colorado River. Here's 6th Street. For anyone that's familiar with 6th Street, here's like Voodoo Donuts. Here's Congress Avenue. It's like right in the thick of it.
Like, and this is totally off topic, but like I've never, like, we've been through Austin, like we've traveled through there, but I've never actually taken the time to like go to Austin. So it's like if we ever come to visit, like I want to like go see the Capitol, like things like that. Like I just want to kind of throw that out there. But yeah.
You can see it's a freaking beautiful hotel. Here's a little bit of a drone shot, I guess you can see the front entrance of it.
He's smiling. He's like, "You about to see some stuff tonight, boy."
Right. Oh, funny enough, there's LBJ and Ladybird.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not cheap to stay here, though. I'll say that. But
Okay.
it is. If I remember correctly, I think it's technically owned by Hilton now. I think Hilton technically owns the property.
Okay.
I remember. Oh, Hyatt. My apologies. This episode is brought to you by Hyatt. Stay at a Hyatt hotel.
That's actually not as bad pricing. Like for just a one night stay for $270. I mean, you could probably get like hotels.com and stay there for a couple nights, and then there you go. Like for the experience, it'd be worth it, I feel. So
yeah. There's the Driskill. Oh, it's cool. It's got a little old timey car sitting there right now.
I like that. That's cool.
Yeah. But I digress.
Man.
The Driskill.
Cool. All right. So this one, it's weird because it's not, so it is a location, but it's not like it's not like a physical building as far as I know. Like I could be wrong.
No, it is a location though. I would say it's a location.
It's a location, but it's not like a building per se.
That is true. It is a structure.
It is a structure. So my number 4 or number 2 per se is called the Villamain Road Haunted Railroad Tracks. So we're just going to get into it. So the haunted railroad tracks on Villamain Road in San Antonio, Texas, which it's funny because I mean it is right next to the road obviously, but the road is right here. So it goes Mission Road, turns into Villamain Road, and then it continues down, and then Villamain Road just kind of goes off into this, and then the railroad track just continues going. So it's probably one of the, I mean, there's multiple railroad tracks going through San Antonio, but this is probably one of the main ones that goes. And as you can see, it continuously just goes and then heads off to Houston, I'm pretty sure. But anyways, so just to kind of throw some pictures up there too, just while I have this going. So the haunted railroad tracks on Villamain Road in San Antonio, Texas are the center of one of the city's most famous ghost stories, drawing countless visitors each year who hope to experience the supernatural firsthand. Known as the haunted railroad tracks or the ghost tracks, this eerie site has been subject to local lore and paranormal fascination for decades. The tale involves spirits of children who allegedly perished in a tragic accident, and today many believe these spirits linger, protecting those who stop at the tracks from meeting the same fate. So, under the cover of night, the railroad tracks on Villamain Road appear unremarkable, just another set of old rails cutting through a quiet area. But those familiar with the legend know that these tracks hold a dark history, as they approach, a feeling of suspense and eerie anticipation fills the air. So the tale of the haunted railroad tracks is rooted in tragedy and mystery, a story that has endured for generations. According to local legend, years ago, a tragic accident occurred at these tracks involving a school bus carrying children. The bus was attempting to cross the tracks when it stalled, and despite desperate attempts by the driver to restart it, a train barreled down the tracks, unable to stop in time. The horrific collision resulted in the deaths of the children on board, casting a dark shadow over the location. The spirits of the children are said to have lingered at the site ever since, determined to prevent another such tragedy from ever occurring again. The story takes on a supernatural twist when it's said that if a car stops on or near the tracks, especially with the engine off, something remarkable happens. Many visitors claim that an invisible force begins to push the vehicle off the tracks, seemingly protecting them from the potential danger of an oncoming train. Drivers who visit the tracks typically place their car in neutral and wait, only to feel their vehicle slowly moving, as if pushed by unseen hands. Some say that the vehicle will even roll uphill, defying the natural slope of the landscape. But the most spine-chilling part of the legend involves a peculiar discovery that one of these encounters. Those who believe in the haunting often sprinkle baby powder or flour on the back of their car before parking it on the tracks. Once they're pushed off the tracks, or pushed, they examine the rear bumper and often claim to find tiny handprints in the powder, marks that weren't there before. These handprints are thought to belong to the ghostly children who perished in the accident, now watching over anyone who stops on the tracks, pushing them to safety. Skeptics argue that the phenomena is simply an optical illusion caused by the slight downhill slope of the road, making it appear as if the car is moving uphill. However, those who believe in the ghost story remain convinced that there is something supernatural at play, and the countless handprint sightings have cemented the legend in local lore. The haunted railroad tracks have since become a popular site for ghost hunters, thrill seekers, and the simply curious. People from all over visit to test the legend themselves, often leaving with stories of inexplicable moments and handprints, adding their own experiences to the eerie lore. To this day, the ghostly children of the railroad tracks are said to continue their solemn duty, silently protecting those who dare to stop in the tracks where their lives ended far too soon.
I think I know what the ultimate side hustle here is. We need to go to where this location is, and I'll put up a sign with like a QR code to like a Venmo account, and I'll say, don't forget to support and tip these ghostly children, and it'll just go into like a giant pot of money that we'll just spend.
That does seem like a good idea.
Also, who's dumb enough to stall out on some tracks purposefully, just hoping?
Dude, that's what I'm saying. But I mean, granted, take a look at this picture. I mean, granted, again, take it with a grain of salt. But yeah,
no, I'm assuming that's factual. That is 100% a real ghost in that real photo. I am not debating it one bit.
But yeah, I don't know. I mean, I'm not gonna go try it out. I mean, just to drive down to San Antonio just to like test this theory out. But if any of our viewers live in San Antonio and you've tried this, let us know in the comments. Let us know if your experience has been the same as these other people have claimed to be, or if you're just full of it. So we'll leave that up to the comments, leave that up to our viewers to watch. So
there's also a correlation of like the older the place, the more likelihood there is to have like a ghost story. Like you don't hear ghost stories from these subdivisions or these suburbs that really, came to prominence in the late 20th century.
Dude, that's what I mean? That's what I'm saying, man. It's like one of those things.
You got to have history.
Right. Yeah, no, I don't know, man. It's different, and I mean, this goes back to what I talked about. Was it last week about the haunted HOA?
Yeah, I forgot about that. We gotta option those rights for that.
Right.
HOA haunting movie. For those of you who haven't heard this, maybe it was like 2 episodes ago,
something like that.
We had this grand idea of you create this horror movie where it's the haunting of the HOA president, because the community, rose up and killed the HOA president. So now the HOA haunts the actual neighborhood that, it governs. I think it'd be a good Blumhouse horror movie. It's got potential.
Yeah. Alrighty.
All right. Up next, one that I kind of personally heard about many moons ago before this episode is the hauntings at the University of North Texas in Denton, Texas. So I'll read off kind of what the official story is, and I'll kind of chime in with what I heard throughout my time there, because I kind of heard, I think, maybe the non-PC version of it. So it'll be kind of interesting. So a little bit of an introduction to some of this haunted history at the University of North Texas. So UNT, otherwise known as the University of North Texas in Denton, is home to a storied campus where supernatural legends abound. With buildings, of course, dating back decades, UNT's historic halls and grounds have inspired tales of eerie encounters that have circulated for generations, from spectral figures in residence halls to mysterious sounds echoing from an old bell tower. The hauntings at UNT have become a memorable part of campus lore. Now, the first one, you have the bell tower of the old normal building, which is actually the photo, in the middle photo here. Unfortunately, the building doesn't exist anymore, so you literally can't go see it. But it's one of UNT's oldest ghost stories, and it revolves around this bell tower of the old normal building. Now, some of the earliest students at UNT often avoided the bell tower after dark because they would hear strange shrieking noises, especially on windy nights. Though the building no longer stands, the legend of its haunting echoes through campus lore, marking it as one of UNT's original paranormal hotspots throughout the early 20th century. You also have Bruce Hall, which is the photo in the top left here. It's actually the oldest resident hall still used for housing students on campus, and it's one of UNT's most legendary residence halls. It was originally built in the year 1946, and it's said to be the home to a ghostly apparition named Wanda, who, according to the official lore you can find online from the university itself, Wanda is said to be a friendly yet mischievous spirit believed to reside on the 4th floor and the attic of the building. Rumored to have died in the building, Wanda is known for pranks that leave residents and visitors on edge. Resident assistants, or RAs, and students report doors mysteriously slamming, showers turning on by themselves, and an eerie presence in the upper floors that even unsettled visiting contractors that are working on the building. Now, that's what the official story was, or what the story they say is the official story. What I remember hearing when I was at college here was, so Wanda apparently was a student back in the 50s who found themselves finding out they were pregnant. And whenever winter break rolled around, they didn't want to go home because they didn't want to have to tell their parents that, you know, things had happened. And for those of you who go to like a typical state school, whenever winter break happens, the vast majority of the campus is like closed because it's, you know, in this case, it's like business is closed. So most students aren't allowed to stay in the dorms, especially back in the 1950s.
Right.
And so she basically hid away in the attic of the building to try to hide and wait for everyone to like not notice that she's staying behind, basically. And because this is back in the day, whenever buildings were heated through the boiler room, no one was there operating the boiler room. So she basically froze to death and died of starvation in the attic of the building and has since haunted it in a not fun way.
My thing is, what did she tell her parents, or did her parents just... I mean, obviously, I know they didn't have phones back then, so there's really no way to like...
Well, they had phones, but they didn't have cell phones.
Well, yeah, but it's like her parents didn't think to, you know, like, oh, our daughter's not home, or we haven't heard from her yet.
Yeah, that's a good question. I don't know. But this is the story that I heard from many of people. Now, of course, as with most legends, you know, story plot changes over the years. So I don't know what the true story is per se, but the version I heard, student got knocked up, didn't want to go home, tried to hide away in the attic, died in the attic, basically.
Right.
Now, that's in the upper floors in the attic of Bruce Hall. Now, you have the boiler room of Bruce Hall, because this is an OG building that requires a boiler room to heat it. At least back in the day it did. So Bruce Hall's basement is also rumored to house another spirit called the Boiler Room Ghost, known for inexplicably opening the heavy metal doors in the basement. This ghost perplexes staff and students alike to this day, as the doors are far too heavy to open on their own. These are like thick, like blast-proof doors, basically. And they just randomly open from time to time. This adds another layer of mystery to Bruce Hall, making it one of UNT's most famously haunted buildings. Now, I will say, when I was on campus my freshman year, I was part of like a film group, basically, and we filmed a short film for like a film festival in Dallas. And so we got permission from the campus to film in the boiler room, basically the basement of Bruce Hall. It is very eerie down there. So I didn't know it was haunted at the time, honestly. I wasn't aware of that lore until like prepping for this episode. I did not know that the boiler room was quasi haunted, but I don't know. It does look eerie as heck down there because it is like an OG boiler room that has since, you know, operated. You also have on campus, you have Julia Smith and KNTU's former home, Smith Hall. So for those of you who are not in the know, KNTU is like the radio station for the campus. So you have Smith Hall, which once housed the campus radio station KNTU, is believed to be haunted by Julia Smith, a composer and former student who actually wrote UNT's alma mater song. Now, staff members have reported hearing strange sounds in the building, including an unexplained loud blaring noise coming from an emergency broadcasting system decoder that should have been off. Now, as soon as a key was inserted in to unlock the door, the noise would just stop all of a sudden, defying any logical explanation. And Julia Smith's presence lingers, making Smith Hall a notable haunted site on campus. Now, one that's kind of interesting, you have what they call the shirtless ghost in the health center. So you can see over here on the right-hand side, these two photos is what I'll reference here in a second. So in UNT's health center, staff and campus police have encountered a ghostly figure known as the shirtless man, described as a young blonde man wearing blue jeans but no shirt. His presence is felt by those working alone after hours, who often see someone behind them, only to find no one is actually there. Campus police have received reports of this spirit, but he has always vanished before being located. Some speculate that the spirit may actually be connected to something called the Student, which is a statue you can see in the bottom right, which was actually unearthed during renovations at another residence hall called Chilton Hall, adding a curious twist to this haunting. So you can see on the top right, I know the chat's covering it, but that's like the statue back in, I think, the 50s. And then the statue kind of got buried away for a while, and they found it again, broken, of course, you can see in the bottom right. But some people think that that statue might actually be like an apparition or a ghost that's like haunting the area. You also have Brenda at Maple Hall. So you have Maple Hall's resident ghost Brenda has been a presence in campus lore since the 1990s, believed to be a former resident who met an untimely end. Brenda's spirit is known to interact with current residents, especially in Wing A200. One former resident assistant, or RA, reported several unnerving experiences, including a ringing phone in an empty room and a door left open with lights on after she had locked up for the night. Residents also reported showers running in unoccupied rooms, adding to the mystery surrounding Brenda's haunting. And then there's a lot of other places around campus where people see weird footsteps and, cold spots and things like that. But like all these other places we mentioned, UNT's an old campus, been around since the 1890s. So, the older the place, theoretically, the more spirits there are. So I'll leave y'all with that. It's just one that's kind of near and dear to me, so I wanted to bring it up. Bruce Hall is really the one that's the most haunted out of the whole bunch, and people legitimately think the top floors of Bruce Hall are haunted. Like, some of the friends I had freshman year that stayed there, they swear by it. So,
I was not a long tenured student at UNT, and even when I was at UNT, I did not stay on campus, so I can either confirm nor deny these statements. But my co-host here, who has been in Denton, who was in Denton for at that time a lot longer than myself, can confirm these because he actually lived on the campus and had opportunities to do certain things. It's definitely, and I know about some of the history of UNT, so I definitely believe some of it as far as things like this. But again, I haven't experienced it firsthand. So to take us home, we are still in Denton. Technically it's Lantana now. It's not all Denton, so this portion of it's actually Lantana, which is weird. But my last one is called, the actual name of it is Old Alton Bridge, which is off of Alton Road, but it's actually called Goatman's Bridge. So we're about to get a little darker here as far as this regards. So just to kind of show you this, let me see. So this is the location of the bridge. As you can see right here, this is the road. Funny enough, I knew of Goatman's Bridge. I just didn't know exactly where it was at. And funny enough, I've actually driven by this so many times, and I've never even thought about it, because when I drive through here, you just kind of look at this picture, right?
Yeah, because it's right off Teasley. I didn't realize it was like that directly off of Teasley.
So the Teasley Lane is right over here. It's literally right here. And I've driven on this road so many times coming from Lantana or Bartonville, and I've just never paid any attention to it at all.
Yeah.
Never paid any attention to it. So that's funny. So let's get into this. So the legend of Goatman's Bridge. Once the sun dips below the horizon, Goatman's Bridge becomes shrouded in eerie silence that makes the air feel thicker, as if carrying the weight of secrets from the past. Old Alton Bridge, constructed in 1884, was originally used for horse-drawn carriages and later vehicles until a new bridge was built nearby, rendering the old bridge obsolete. But over the years, the bridge has gained a reputation that has outlasted its practical use. It's said to be the haunt of a dark and terrifying spirit known as the Goatman. If anyone knows any satanic stuff, you know that Goatman is a symbolic figure for a satanic being, per se. So the story of Goatman is rooted in a local legend that dates back to the early 20th century. According to this tale, an African-American goat farmer named Oscar Washburn lived near the bridge with his family. Washburn was also a kind and honest man who raised goats and sold their milk, earning the nickname the Goatman. His success, however, drew the ire of the local KKK as a whole. One night, a group of Klan members reportedly dragged Washburn out to the bridge and, in a brutal act of racial hatred, hung him from the iron truss. When they looked down to see Washburn's body, though, they were horrified to find that the noose was empty. It said that Washburn's spirit had somehow escaped, but his family wasn't as lucky. Enraged and desperate to exact punishment, the Klansmen went back to his house and murdered his wife and children. Legend has it that the ghost of the Goatman still wanders the bridge and its surrounding areas, seeking justice for the horrors committed against him and his family. Those who visit the bridge at night report chilling encounters. Locals and paranormal investigators alike claim that if you stand on the bridge and call out, "Goatman, Goatman, I've got your goat," an invisible presence may respond. People say they've heard heavy hoofbeats, low growls, or even a deep voice warning them to get off the bridge. Others feel a sudden, intense cold or a sense of being watched by unseen eyes. Another common occurrence is the appearance of two red glowing eyes in the dark, said to be the eyes of the Goatman himself. Some have reported feeling as though they are being pushed or scratched by an unseen force. Visitors sometimes leave with strange bruises or scratches on their bodies, injuries they cannot explain. The bridge is also associated with occult rituals and dark practices. Local legends suggest that the satanic cults have used the area for rituals, further amplifying the sinister aura around the bridge. Strange symbols and markings have been found under and around the bridge, lending credence to the rumors of dark energy lingering in the area. Goatman's Bridge has become a rite of passage for thrill seekers, curious teenagers, and ghost hunters. While many approach the legend with skepticism, few leave the bridge without feeling a deep sense of unease. Even in daylight, the bridge has an air of mystery and foreboding, but at night it becomes a place where the past feels palpably close and where the horrors endured by a family long ago seem to echo in the dark. Just a bullet point. The legend is named after the spirit of an African-American goat farmer, Oscar Washburn, who was murdered at the bridge or near the bridge. Legend claims that Washburn's body mysteriously vanished from the noose, but his spirit remained. In a subsequent attack, they murdered his family, adding to the tragic lore. And then the paranormal activity, obviously the calling of the Goatman.
Yeah.
Reports of two red glowing eyes, physical encounters, and unexplained bruises and scratches. This is, I don't know if it's still used today, like it said, but there have been, I'd say probably in the past 5 to 7 years, I've heard of people saying how they still see people out there doing certain things. So it's best to just steer clear of that area, because those people that are out there performing those rituals and doing said things, you don't want to be caught near there, because
Kind of crazy if you think about it.
It really is. It really is. So it says, for those brave enough to visit Goatman's Bridge, it's a place where the supernatural feels close at hand, and the lingering sorrow and anger of a tragic past seems to reach out to anyone willing to listen. The legend of Goatman lives on, transforming this old iron bridge into a site of eternal mystery and ghostly terror.
Yeah, that one's a real one. That was one that I didn't bother joking about during my time up there, because it's got legitimate history to it.
It does.
There is a true story of a unfortunate situation that happened with a gentleman, and it's if you believe anything about essences or spirits hanging around on something, it's that.
Yep.
And for those of you that aren't aware, Denton's got a little bit of a history. There's some North Texas, far North Texas,
right?
There's some deep rooted anger and history with certain communities, and so it's very believable. Also, totally off topic, but I got distracted looking at Geyer High School, which is literally a stone's throw from that bridge. some nice facilities, man. I went down a rabbit hole real quick of like looking at some of these like Denton area high schools. Holy crap.
Yep.
They got some nice facilities.
And-
But I digress.
Right.
Man, but the old Alton Bridge. That
Never
one
actually
always
been
pops
there.
up. Yeah,
Right.
that one always pops up in like Texas haunting lore. Yo, this is cool. Let me share this real quick. Keep finding these drone videos. Gotta love it. But here's like a nice, the old Alton Bridge. I didn't realize it's technically not a Denton address anymore. Like you said, it's Lantana.
Yeah.
And this one just said Argyle, which is totally wrong. But
I mean, Lantana and Argyle are pretty much the exact same thing.
yeah,
Like, because Lantana's so close to there, same as Bartonville.
yeah. I didn't realize it was like Hickory Creek is right here. And for those of you that know, Hickory Creek, this is actually a tributary of Lake Louisville.
Yep.
So, you know, we've joked about it in the past, but Lake Louisville has that history of drownings. So, you know, yeah, it's a rickety bridge. I mean, it makes sense. It's old. Built 1884. Oh, here's another one. Let's see here. Person walking across it. So you can get the sense of, you know, picture the story Riley just told us, and it's very believable to kind of see that happen here.
Yep.
There's a plaque on there. Of course, there's a 5-ton limit. I would not test that. Some gang affiliated signs. Not really. It's just graffiti. More graffiti. I'll do a little casual flyover real quick. Good job on that grand finale. That was good. I like the old Alton Bridge. It's a fun story.
And it blows my mind because like I knew it was somewhere in like south portion of Denton, and I've driven by it so many times and never even thought about it. I'm like, all right. So I'm like, okay. But yeah, I mean, those are like, believe me, Texas has so many other places, and if you don't believe me, you can literally check this book out, and it's got like at least 100 different places, like at least that are probably most notable in the state of Texas, and then some. So if you live in Texas and you want to know more about its history, I recommend checking out that book. It's good, it's fun, and it has history to it, you know. So it's definitely something that if you've been here for a long time and you don't know anything about where you're living at and you want to know about it, it probably has something in there in some of the most major areas in the state of Texas. And so yeah.
Well, good deal. Well, episode 40 of the Unscripted Company podcast is in the books. We hit up 10 of what we perceive to be the most haunted spots in Texas. But just like Riley mentioned, there's plenty more out there. So if you have any more that you think we need to take a look at, I know, you know, this is kind of our last episode of spooky season. Spooky season has kind of come to an end now. It's officially the month of November. So, you know, turkey time's on the horizon. But if there's any other haunted places in Texas you know about, feel free to let us know in the comments and live chat, wherever. You know how to get a hold of us. You're all smart cookies, but maybe we can talk about it on a future episode as well, or even next spooky season. It could be same time, same place next year. So who knows?
Who knows?
Yeah. Little couple of company notes to leave everybody with. If you made it to this part of the live stream, first of all, I see you out there. Appreciate you. I'm looking at you. Yeah. Thanks for stopping by. If you haven't done so yet, give us a like, give us a follow, give us a subscribe. You know the buttons you got to click. The algorithm does a thing. We definitely appreciate it. You can, of course, as always, go to unscriptedcompany.com. That's how you can find all the platforms we're on in case you want to listen on Spotify, YouTube, Rumble, etc. You can also find the newsletter there. We send that out about an hour or so after each episode drops with some additional words that you can consume with your eyeballs, things like that. Riley, leave us with some words of wisdom. I always let you drop the final nugget of knowledge on us, but what you got for this week?
Again, thank you all. Your support definitely means a lot. We're definitely working on some things for next year, but if you are able to support in more than just clicking those buttons and you would like, we do have our official merch. If you're not able to, again, we still appreciate the support, but the holidays are coming up. And if you were looking for some things for your family or even just, you know, for your loved one, if y'all have watched so far, you know, let us know what you think. Otherwise, again, as we mentioned at the beginning of this live stream, there is an election happening within 2 days. Early voting has ended, and now it's just a matter of, who's left to vote in these next couple of days, which will be pretty big in the next 2 days. So again, as we've talked about in previous episodes, go vote, go do your civic duty. I know a lot of people make light of it, but if you're going to vote, do not vote based on your emotions. Again, I have said this before, 95% of your decisions are made on emotions. Don't vote based on, I don't like this person and I hate them, so I'm just going to vote for the other person. Take your time, do your research, vote for what's best for our country as a whole. We are a one people. We are supposed to be a one people. So you need to do what's best and just make the best decision that you can possibly make of what you think is best for, what you think is best, honestly. And if you've done your research, then awesome. If you haven't done your research, you just go in there and vote. Well, then we'll have to have some conversations about that at a later date. But otherwise, we do appreciate everything that you guys have done and just being here with us. And we are already almost through our first year of Unscripted Company. So thank you all. We appreciate it.